We are live. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Info Circuit. Welcome to the first episode of 2025. We've been a little while since we've been at things the last time chatting with stuff, and I am coming to you this evening because Derek is enjoying the high life once again in the life of a reviewer. He's in sunny Spain, enjoying, I'm hoping, some good weather. I think he has a video up earlier on, but I think it was inside. So we'll have to take a look at that one in a while just to see and confirm what's going on. But this evening, we are on episode 7 of the Info Circuit. And we are joined this evening by Phil Barnes from Geotab. So Phil, welcome to the stage.
Good evening, Matthew. Thank you very much for having me. Great to be here.
It's fantastic to have you here. For people who don't know, we've been engaged for a while between the Irish EV Association and yourselves. We've talked and presented at some of your events and what you've run over the last few bits of 2 years. I think we've done at this stage. We're coming on to probably a third year around this stage that we've been engaged with stuff. And it's fantastic. I love the stuff that you're doing. I love the mentality that's in behind Geotab and what goes on with it. Every time I go there, I kind of come away a lot more intrigued about what's going on, but also coming away with a lot more knowledge that I didn't have. That I would use the term, the space that you guys operate in is slightly different than what I'm used to in maybe the individual side of things, on the EV side of things. But look, we'll get into all of this and we're going to go through it all. So let's kick us off, Phil. Give us an introduction as to who you are and what you do, and let's see and hear about what Geotab are as well.
Sure. So thank you very much for having me, Matthew. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So my name is Phil Barnes. I'm the business development manager for Geotab here in Ireland. I'm based in Dublin. My accent doesn't sort of prevail the fact that I've lived here 20 years. Well, I'm into my 21st year now, but my accent hasn't changed much. So I've worked across the island for many of those years. Know the sights and sounds and the trials and tribulations of traveling around the country. And I've worked in the software space pretty much for most of that time as well. I'm of a software background. Geotab, I've been with them for just over 3 years now. Although I've worked in this sort of telematics kind of vehicle space for almost 17 years now. So yeah, getting on a bit, show my age a little bit. Got my hair cut today, so the greys aren't showing.
Not as visible. Yes.
Not as visible. And yeah, basically, and what we do in Geotab is, we try and, change. We're a connected transportation company. We're trying to get data from the asset, whatever the asset may be. You could be driving a tractor, a lawnmower, a Ferrari, HGV, vans, cars, etc. And it's about getting the data from the vehicle, the connected data, and presenting that in a single platform, which we call My Geotab. We have an open platform, so you can connect it to other pieces as well, and delivering, insight for that client, for that member of the team within that client. So it could be the HR team, it could be business team, it could be the operations team, the fleet, whatever part. It's a solution built for the business, not, I suppose, where we've traditionally seen maybe tracking systems in the past, where it's about just trying to see where you are on a map and trying to get some mileage and what time you arrived. We're much deeper in terms of pulling information out.
Yeah, it definitely is the bit that really struck me as to my external view of what would have been a company like Geotab, was that telematics and just tracking a vehicle. But really what you guys are doing is so much more in depth, and it's great to see where you've gone to with things and who you're dealing with, I suppose, is the way I would put it. But also, as you say, the data you're trying to pull out of things and what you're trying to do with it at a level that is just above and beyond just kind of saying it's A to B for a vehicle on the road, for argument's sake. It's so much more.
I think so. And I think the freshness that I see in the business, and what attracted me to the business, maybe 4 years ago, before I joined, is just really how they take a very different approach to, speaking to businesses in particular, and how they are trying to solve problems, rather than being given a book and saying, this is the book you have, these are the chapters you have, these are the reports you have, these are the alerts you can get, go and make the best of it. The way Geotab operates, saying, look, we've got all of this data available, your data, and we can build the platforms that you need to solve your problems. and they take the approach much differently. So it's very much a solution-led approach rather than this is what you've got, make the best of it.
Yes, absolutely. Which, again, I suppose where I come from in the business I work for, it's the same thing. It's you're trying to solve the customer's problem. We're not here to always just sell a product. That does happen sometimes, but really it's about that end customer, and it's that solution that works for them. And I think that's the bit that kind of has always intrigued me and brought me around to what you guys are doing, that I enjoy what you're doing, because I see the same mentality in what we do. And it really is a thing where you can see what comes out of it for the customer at the end of the day is they really get something that they can take away and go with. So it's fantastic to see what you're doing and where you go with it. So I suppose the next question is, and we're going to put it in here, is people are looking at this from the perspective of, well, Geotab, what's it for them and what's in it around the EV space? So let's give people an idea as to where that plays with what you do.
Yeah, so I mean, sustainability, it's a big word. There's lots of little shoots from that, and the green fleet area of our business is very established and strong, and we've got circa 330, 340, electric vehicle models, makes and models already fully reverse engineered on our system, so we can pull data from that. And if you think, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, the amount of new vehicles that are coming through, it's testament to the engineering staff that we have. I mean, we've got 2,500 roughly people that work in Geotab. 65% of them, maybe more, are actually engineers, and they're all working in that space for to deliver the information out of the vehicle. So there's a lot of work going on now because all the electric vehicles coming out are all new, whereas Ford Mondeos have been around forever and a day. So it was easy because we've done it once and away we go. So there's a lot of work going on in that space to pull information from the EVs, and it's not just your standard stuff. So it's not just state of charge. It's not just how much energy have you put in. It's all the other bits and pieces around the vehicle. So we can see cranking voltage on the vehicle. We see the state of health of the battery. We can see if the battery's degrading at all. We can see how often it's charging, what type of charge it's going on. Is it an AC or a DC? How often is it being done? Is it going to 80%? And we can build rules around all of that to help you manage your fleet. Because as we evolve in this new way of living and working and being being in harmony with the electric vehicle, is we have to change the habits that we've been so accustomed to. And I was only with a client a couple of weeks ago, just after Christmas there, and they were saying that what they do is the vehicles come back to base and they fill up the vehicles at their bunker fuel and they fill them up to the top, and then they drive off. And when we looked at the data, we said, well, why are you doing that? Because you only ever use like a third of the tank of fuel. So you're carrying 2/3 of tank of fuel around. So your fuel economy is going to be actually worse. So we're now in the process of actually saying to them, well, just fill it up to say half, for example, and just see what difference that makes over 2-3 months worth of journey. But whilst we're doing that, we'll also do an electric vehicle suitability assessment for you. An EVSA will look at that and say, can that vehicle be done in a vehicle that's available in an alternative fuel, in this case, an electric vehicle? And companies are saying, well, typically they've said, no, we can't do it because we can't. But they've never really looked into whether they could do it or not. The easy answer is no, it's not today's problem. We'll move away. We'll look at it again. But our mantra is very much about management by measurement. You've got to ensure you've got good quality information and data to allow you to make a better, more informed decision.
Absolutely.
I hope that answers your question. It's a bit of a long-winded answer.
It's brilliant. We've a couple of comments coming in. Elizabeth is saying hello. So thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to get to Andrew. Andrew, thank you, Andrew. Andrew goes, is it Skynet and B2B? So I don't know about the Skynet part, but the B2B part, I suppose, to comment on that one, Phil, as to this is B2B is what you're at, just to touch on that.
Yeah, typically, I mean, we're the largest commercial provider of this service, across the world. We've got about 4.6 million connected vehicles. It is commercial vehicles. It's B2B. But that's not to say that we don't operate or can't operate in the private space as well. I guess it's different needs and different requests. If you have a fleet of 2, 5, 10, 20 vehicles, there's actually you need to know more data than if you've got your own data. You know what you're doing with it, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump back in. You mentioned two interesting things, and the first one I'm going to take is the EVSA and what goes on there and looking at vehicles. So you mentioned it. People are kind of saying to you, we can't make that switch. We can't make that change. And as you say, you're trying to get the data that backs up what they are already doing and what is suitable for them to go towards. So what are those conversations like? What is that coming for you? What's the feedback you get initially? What's it like when you get into the conversation? And then where does it end up after a period of time? How does that look for you in that ongoing space?
And there's a lot of variation in the conversations we have, depending, we can't even narrow it down to particular sectors and so on. It's just very much varied conversations. But most often it's that the fleet manager or the person that we're speaking to, who procurement people, just don't have any information on their vehicles and what their vehicles actually do. The simple fact they have is maybe a fuel card and a mileage report, maybe as much as they have. Beyond that, they don't really have any real data. And what we're able to give them is what's the utilization of the vehicle, what time of day does the vehicle go out, what's the longest journey, the shortest journey, the average journey, the number of journeys, the trip by hour, by day, by week, by month, by quarter, whatever period of time the operation of that vehicle. We can take all of that information and provide the tool simply by pressing a button, and it will then go and do the analysis and say, quite often people will say to us, there's no way we can use an electric vehicle. We do 200 kilometers a day and we do 20 stops. Okay. And we'll say, well, how do you know? And well, you just can't. I said, but how do you know? And this is typically how we start. We say, well, why don't you just let us have a look at the data and just to see? And you might be right. You might not be able to, but let's have a look to see what the data tells us. And then we might be able to say, well, we can build a plan to say, well, actually, you can, or you can if you do this, or you can if you've got this option and this option. And if you change your route and went this way, this would make it better. So therefore you are planning and actually looking at things that are more real rather than something which is just saying, no, we can't do something.
Yeah, which and the thought that jumps into mind was it goes back to Thomas O'Hagan from Weave was presenting at the last event that I was at and he was talking about looking at it from their perspective, because as a charge point operator, they're looking at it where vehicles are going, and you had this heat map as to what was going on. And I found it really interesting is that heat map that you guys are able to provide to the customer as to what they have with their vehicles. But the CPOs were looking at it and starting to come to the position of saying that actually, yes, you can do it from A to B, but actually if things go slightly wrong and you think you're not going to get back to your base where you normally charge, or you're going to have that issue, where are you going to go to next? So that conversation was actually happening as well. So it was a very comprehensive analysis, I would say, that it wasn't just you're always going to charge back at base and this is what you do. It gave a lot more information there, didn't it?
100%. And what we did with those guys is, we're all about working together. We don't have all the answers, and in this case, they didn't have all the answers. But when we join things together and we look at them collectively, we can see that there's potential for them to make change. And it's not our decision. We're not saying go and make the change. We're saying, look, you've got the options here to potentially make a change. And the heat map point is really good, because what that actually showed was, from memory, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was around 85% of the journeys, the vehicles were no further than about 6 miles away from a charging point. And that was only their charging point. That wasn't looking at anybody else's charging points. So actually, if we then overlaid all of the other data, I'm sure it'd be, that number would be much higher. So we're giving them information to say, look, you might feel that. And again, one of the keys with that is chatting to the drivers and giving them some education to say, just because you see a petrol station or a gas station or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean you're not seeing an EV point. EV points aren't in the same places where historically we put where we put petrol stations. So you go to your leisure centre, the hotel, the recreation centre, the supermarket, the other area of the library where these charging points are. And the map that we can provide, because we can overlay that on my Geotab, it's available literally instantly on the app for the driver, so that they've got confidence that they know, even if they're down to a percentage left and they know they've got maybe it's going to be tight getting back, they can go and drop in on a DC charger that is free, as in it's not in use, and they can drop on that, and it's only 3 miles away.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic to be able to put that all together. And the big thing that I had seen as well was driver confidence and training. That was the big thing that I had seen the Geotab were putting into place, that you can analyze, which again, some people may not like, but it always goes back to there's the benefits, pros and cons, but it goes back to where the routes are going, what direction people are driving, how efficient that is in terms of petrol or diesel or electric, it doesn't matter. And then driver training about how they use the vehicles and what's going on with them. But the shift to EV was a bit of driver training, but you guys were able to look at the data and give good information back to these fleet managers and say, look, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to look at. And it's something that they can operate and work with then.
Absolutely. We're very much about advisory. We don't know, we can't tell them how to do their jobs. That's not what we're there for. We're there to say we're advise on this. And one of the points I get put at me most times is, we've always done it this way. It's always worked. Yes. We've always got this way. I'm like, but that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean, it might have been right when you started doing it that way, but that could have been 1 year ago, 1 month ago, 10 years ago. We don't know, and in fairness, some of the conversations I had, there were some people, they put these in place many, many years ago and haven't changed and won't change because that's just their mindset. However, thankfully, majority of people are open to at least exploring it, because it costs nothing. It's like, what harm is it going to do? It's, ultimately, it could potentially empower you to be more successful in your role that you're doing, to say, look, guys, we can save you on this and this and this. But not just having that conversation. If you do remain in an ICE vehicle, the beauty of the My Geotab system is it can do all of your reporting for your ESG reporting, your CO2, your NOx, all of that. We've got all of that data. So again, clicks of a button, rather than manually collecting stuff from WLTP records and going through manual things and trying to build all that. We can do all of that, not quite at the touch of a button, but not much more to it than that. It's a very simple report that's built and can provide information back to the client. So either way, there's a win. It's about trying to provide solutions. But the first win is getting inside the mindset of the people or persons or organizations to say, are you on board with this? Because, like anything, you buy a new pair of shoes, you buy, a new coat, whatever, first time it's not quite as comfortable as the old one, it's not quite as good, and my analogy is always very much, to try and bring it to be a bit more modern. If you change your phone, it's great you've got a new phone, but how awkward and messy and pain in the cheeks is it when you first do it? Getting your apps right, getting your things right, and it takes time. Once you've got it, a day or two in, you're away. And that's the beauty of the Geotab system. You take how you want your system to be and create it your way. And Matthew, you might have it one way, colleague will have it a different way, but it's still the same data source. You've still got accuracy in the data, and you know that what you're getting is true. And you must have confidence that the information that you're getting is true to make a better decision.
Yeah, and data, let's get onto data. And the one that I found interesting out of all that, and actually, before we get onto that, is you talk about the jacket. The analogy I would use is gloves for your motorcycle. So leather gloves on your motorbike, the first couple of weeks that you wear them, they really don't fit nice at all. And it takes that bit of time for them to break down and become comfortable on your hands, because it's such a tactile part of what you're doing on a motorcycle. So it's a thing where it is really that sort of, it takes time to get there. So I can really understand that perspective, and kind of going, it's something that it's different. You're not sure about it, you're not comfortable about it, but then when you get into it, you get the feel of it, and you know what you're doing. And look, that's what it's like in EVs all of the time for anybody making the change. Is the way I describe it, is you are always going to have that bit of time where it's a transition period, and you're going to struggle to just kind of get things all the way done and right and feel comfortable.
That's of course, and and generally, as a human race, people don't like change. They're not really big into it. They're comfortable. They know it. It's it's easy. We can manage that. However, If we don't do change in anything that we do in our lives, we won't get better. We won't be more improved. We won't get further down the road, etc., etc. Once you've worn those gloves for 2 weeks, you look back and say, "Would I wear the old pair again?" Most often, most people will say no. But you're never going to bring everybody on board, and we're not trying to. We're just trying to say, look, let's explore it. Let's look at it. Let's give you some true data that will help you provide a solution today, tomorrow, 6 months, 6 years, whenever you're ready for that step. But let's make the decisions in line with your policies within your business, and that's what we're pretty much trying to push.
Yeah, and just the data. It's beyond just what you're doing with the customer and what they need on their solution. So I'm going to put it, Geotab put out an article on batteries in EVs and battery degradation. They had done one a couple of years ago. They did an updated one last year. Tell people about that. And because you're getting real life data, not just somebody's assumption as to what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, we only did a small sample of about 1.3 million vehicles, so it was only small. But the beauty is, joking aside, it's real data. And when we looked at 2019, the stats were around 2.3% degradation on batteries. So a couple of points here. The technology is 6 years old, now, and when we were doing it, but when we're looking. When we did it in September, we did the analysis in 2024. We released the information in September last year. That figure had come down 22%. So the degradation was 1.8%. And firstly, the advances in technology, the fact that we found that charging it on different types of chargers didn't really make any difference. Temperature of the vehicle, temperature of the didn't really make any difference. All of these things where people were saying, "Oh, it won't last." Actually, what we found is an EV will outlast any ICE vehicle. Firstly, there's much less moving parts in it. The battery will outlast it. The battery on the high-end ones, granted, we can't all afford the high-end ones, we know that, but we were finding that, bear in mind that was an average, and we were finding that on the high-end ones, the degradation was only 1%. So
wow,
again. And we can measure that. We can show that. So when on a fleet procurement point of view, and I suppose if people take their mindsets to how we maybe sell a vehicle today, you look at service history, you look at how many kilometers the vehicle has done, you look at, when was it last had its cam belt changed and so on. So all these little things.
Yes.
Whereas with an EV, it's a bit like your phone. You say, well, how old is it? What state of battery do I have? And what mileage have I done? That's all you need.
Yeah.
Because everything else, there's no other working parts. Okay, when were the brakes changed? Okay, or tires changed. But beyond that's fair enough. But other than that, you've got so much more potential and a vehicle that will outlast an ICE vehicle so many years. So the outcome was very, very positive. Look, again, use real data, look at the information, and choose wisely. Now, granted, if you buy, and this is no different to ICE to EV, if you buy a 10-year-old Ford Focus versus a new Ford Focus, or a 10-year-old EV versus a new EV, there's going to be differences. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So the quality of stuff in a 10-year-old Ford Focus is not as good as a brand new one, just the same as in an EV. Technology is moving so fast. And what we'll see over the next number of years is, the amount of technology that's coming through, particularly with the new companies that are sort of launching here. 2 years ago, no one had heard of BYD. And now you look at them and go, geez, they're everywhere. They are literally, but their technology and that they're putting into their vehicle and the quality is absolutely second to none. And the beauty of that, and a few others, without just naming one, there's a few others. What that's doing is bringing the traditional companies that we know, the Volkswagens and BMWs, and it's bringing them up a level into that world, so that we're all competing in the same area with the same levels of quality. And from a confidence point of view, if you're able, the secondhand market's getting much better because more are being sold, but also the quality of the EVs is, it just gets better every single year.
Yeah. But and I think the thing I want to say is that with all that is it is getting better all the time. But you made the point as to what's there already and what we've seen from 2019 to 2024. That battery degradation, the battery's going to outlive the vehicle. And these are commercial vehicles. This is not your passenger vehicle just to go to the shops. This is being used by people in normal operations, as you see in a van. It's I don't want to use the analogy white man in a van, but you know what I mean. It's white man in a van. It's being used. So when you say the battery's going to last beyond that vehicle, that's not an easy life for that to last. And we're talking about that now. And you're saying things are coming that are just going to be another step up again.
Absolutely.
So
I think
it's phenomenal.
I think also as well, what you're seeing is, people are going, oh yeah, the battery's this, it's rubbish, to be honest with you. Let's look at the real data, but also look at particularly the Kias and company Hyundai's. Look at most providers. Look at the level of warranty that they are providing. 5 years, 8 years, 100,000 kilometers. How many people on a commercial world? You might be running that and doing that, which is great. It's confidence. But in a private world, I don't do 100,000 kilometers in 5 years. Pretty sure. Some people might. I don't know. But the point is, have confidence. The fact that these manufacturers are standing over what they're delivering.
Excellent. We have a question in from Andrew, and he says, "Can you share this information with the public, or share what to avoid?" What would be your views on what you see?
Of course. There's a lot of information on the geotab.com/IE website, where we've got a lot of blogs. We've got the battery degradation piece on there. Actually, it's available as a public space. So there's lots of good content in there. If you go to the press release area and so on, we've got white papers, we've got blogs, we've got case studies and so on. So you can see that, and effectively, the manufacturers will be the same across private and commercial pieces, but the point is the same. They're not going to put one type of battery into a commercial vehicle and a different one into a from a production point of view, they're going to put the same one in. So it's all available there. If you go to geotab.com/IE, you'll get onto the Irish site, or if you just do .com, you can obviously navigate across and choose the territory you want to look at.
Excellent. So Phil, we are not going to be doing the full hour this evening, just so people are aware. You have places to be, I have places to be, so we're going to be cutting it short this evening with stuff, so we're not going to do the full hour as we normally do. So we have a few minutes left, but I have two small questions. So the first one is, to date, and what you've seen, what you feel has been a success out of what you've seen, be it globally as Geotab or even in Ireland. What have you seen in a success to date?
Success globally, the fact that we're adding hundreds of thousands of connections every single year. There's a success there. The connections are coming. So from an Ireland point of view, I'm 3 years in with Geotab in Ireland, and Geotab is relatively new to the island, but I'm fortunate enough to be at the forefront of that and helping drive that with a really, really good quality dedicated team with me. We're not, we're one level, we're one team. And where we're seeing success is, companies from, very small companies with 1 and 2 vehicles through to very large companies with very big brands that everyone will know of, coming and speaking to us because they've had other providers giving them maybe tracking services in the past where they're not seeing the same levels of data and service and support and solution and collaboration and customization, all of these things that Geotab can bring. So we're seeing huge success in that, but we don't ever, rest on our laurels, as they say. We're very much, we work hard every day, and we make sure that we're providing a solution and an answer to people that have questions for us every day. And we've made some significant changes. We're many thousands of percent up over the last number of years. Granted, we started at a small base because there was nobody here, but now there is. So, and what we're seeing is lots of people are coming in asking us, "I saw you at this show. I saw you at this show. Seen you speaking at this," and now people are coming and talking to us, which is great and great testament to everybody involved with the journey of Geotab over here in Ireland. So, and long may that continue.
Exactly. Andrew says, "Cool, thanks." So thank you, Andrew. It's great to have different questions and stuff. And the last thing I want to say, and Phil, I'll let you go with this one, is where are people going to find the information, like, to get in contact if they've seen that something of interest? And the other thing I'll say is, before you say all that, is I think we're going to have you back, because there are so many more things in my head at the minute that I want to ask you and talk about, that I think people would love to get more about what you guys have done. So I'm kind of, I'm a bit frustrated in some ways, but with these things, it's always good to be able to kind of go, actually, do you know what, I think we'll have you back. So, but to finish up from your side, where do people get the last bit of information or get in contact if they've seen something of interest at this point?
Sure, appreciate that. Well, that's good to know that you'd like me back, and it's not the case we don't want to speak to you again. So that's a good start. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. I know, and obviously we'd love to come back, and maybe we could maybe set the hour in next time, and that's great. And there's so much more we can talk about. There's so many positive things happening across the island, and we're speaking to all types of companies and people and everything. So yes, they do that. In terms of where can people get more information, we always say go to the website. The website's a dynamic piece, geotab.com/IE to land on the Irish site, or .com, and you can navigate to the territory you want. We have links on the Irish EV Association because we're members of you guys, so we have a link on there. So by all means, come into there. You can find myself on LinkedIn, so it's Phil Barnes and Geotab, and you'll find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, we're very active on the digital and in the digital space. So by all means, come and find out if there's any questions. We're happy to answer.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil. Yes, look, we're going to cut it there just because we have things to do this evening and other commitments to get to as well. But it was fantastic to have you here. We couldn't leave it off because it's so interesting to see what's going on, where things are coming from on your side. Look, we're going to have you back again, Phil, definitely. And we're going to get back at it again. As I say, I'll try to get Derek to come up with a few more questions as well, because I know I have my own as well, but I'm sure Derek will have a few as well, and we'll try to get him on here to do it with you, because I'm sure he has some interesting information that goes with it as well at that point in time. But for this evening, thank you very much, sir. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Really appreciate it, Matthew. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. And that's it, folks, for episode 7 of the Info Circuit with Geotab. We're going to be probably back next month, and we're going to get back into it again. We had a bit of the winter break. We kind of took it easy, but we're getting back into the swing of things in the new year. So if you're interested and you've enjoyed what's going on here, check out the IRISHEVAssociation.ie website. Check out geotab.com/IE and get in contact with either myself or Phil if you have any questions about stuff. We're going to come back again. There's so much stuff in my head that hasn't been covered here this evening that is going on with Geotab and in this space in general, and even just Phil's own point of view of what's going on and where he's seen things and his own views on things, not just what Geotab is as beyond. It's something that I think people would be very interested to hear about. So we're going to come back to it again. So for this episode of the Info Circuit, thank you very much.